Behind me you can see the Biosphere 2 facility, and specifically the desert biome that's at the lowest elevation. The warm, wet air rises through the building to the rainforest that we saw before. Behind the desert biome, you see the Santa Catalina Mountains in the Sonoran Desert. This is also a research area for our biologists and our ecologists, but this is where they can use the real-world setting to compare it to what they're seeing under the glass inside Biosphere 2. We also see one of the lungs, that large dome behind me, and that's where we control the pressure and volume of the system, especially when it was sealed in the early 90s. If you think about a greenhouse of 2 hectares under the sun in the desert, it's going to heat up. And if you don't have some way to allow the volume of air to increase, then the pressure is going to increase. And if the pressure increases, you're going to damage your facility, you're going to blow out the windows. We also want to talk about the energy that it took to run this. If you think about, again, a greenhouse under the sun in the desert, it gets very hot, it required a lot of energy to cool it. So let's take a look at the energy center as well. Behind me you can see the energy center. And when this was a closed facility back in the 1990s with people living inside, it required a lot of energy to maintain the appropriate temperature for the plants, the biomes, and the people living inside. It's connected to the electrical grid, it has a backup diesel generator, and it has a backup natural gas generator. These are all important as redundant systems, as the kind of thing you would need if you were going to explore space as well. On my left are the cooling towers, where we would evaporate water to take heat out of the system and provide a way to chill water that we would pump inside the facility, and then we would use air handlers or radiators to move the air inside Biosphere 2 over this cold water and then pull the heat out of the system, kind of like the radiator inside your car. Now what's important to note is that the intersection of water and energy actually is an important way to think about how one would have to regulate ecosystems if you were trying to recreate them from scratch. You need energy in order to move and extract water. You can also use water to change temperature in various places. And one of the costly energy expenditures of Biosphere 2 was maintaining the temperature of the ocean that we visited earlier. So these are systems that were important. We thought of this kind of like Earth in the sense that energy from the sun comes to Earth and then leaves as heat. And in Biosphere 2, the energy was provided from outside. The system was sealed, but the energy could come and go as we needed.
We are now in the Biosphere 2 lung. There are 2 of these on property, and the reason that they are built attached to the biosphere is because when it was a sealed environment, they really had to think about the pressure and the temperature gradient inside the building. So this equation here, PV equals nRT, helps to explain a lot of that. So in a sealed building, as the temperature goes up and the air needs somewhere to expand, that pressure is going to also increase. And if there's nowhere for that volume, that air to go, then it would explode those windows. And that would totally ruin the experiment that they were doing. So they built this facility, this area, to be able to have a place for the air to go to expand and contract, depending on the temperature inside of the building. So what you're seeing is actually 16 tons of steel attached to 4 tons of rubber that move up and down depending on the amount of air pressure inside of Biosphere 2. Now today, it's no longer in use because Biosphere 2 is no longer sealed. We go in and out of it all day long, and there's some windows open today. So this is no longer actively in use because the air is able to escape in other ways. So we are in the Technosphere, which is for the 2 hectares of biology above us. This is the 1 hectare of technology that runs all of that biology. So things like air handlers, like the one behind me, which move and control the air temperature inside the building, to the piping above us, which moves the water throughout the building and is the water cycle inside of Biosphere 2. Everything inside of this part of the building in the Technosphere essentially mimics something that happens on Earth for us naturally. It mimics the ecosystem services. The things like the oxygen cycle and the carbon cycle that we take to happen naturally on our planet every single day need to be mimicked down here in order to run Biosphere 2.